I want to talk about my trip to La Paz, and if you're thinking about going, my opinion of it, would I go back, the prices of food and lodging, and right now, I just made it to Mexico City, so I just flew in from La Paz, finished up my stay. I'll be in Mexico City in the next 4 or 5 days, so I'm super excited about that because I'm going to be able to get some great content with some of the Hyatts in this city here, and I've heard amazing things about Mexico City as well, so stoked to be in the city. Heard it's a big city, but let's talk about La Paz. Now, first of all, if you guys want to see this place was on Airbnb. I only need it for a night because I ended up flying in here a day early. It does kind of smell in this bathroom, unfortunately. The bed is up there, actually. And what I found out is that it actually doesn't have air conditioning. So, yikes, we'll see. But let's talk about La Paz. I'm going to be bringing up some videos while I talk about La Paz, so you guys can see what it looks like, as well as some of the places I walked around at and where I went. So, first off, when it comes to La Paz, I stayed in an Airbnb, very affordable. It was like $30 a day. Of course, Airbnb gets some taxes and fees, so it ended up costing me around $230 for about 4 nights or so, 4 or 5 nights. I was supposed to stay an extra night, but I wanted to get to Mexico City, mainly because of what I'm going to talk about when it comes to La Paz. So, as always, you are in the Baja. It's beautiful. It's pretty. You get some nice sunsets. There are some nice beaches that I hear about with La Paz. I will throw some of them up on the screen. I'm forgetting their names right now, but they're pretty far out from the actual city in the Malacon. So when I'm showing you the Malacon right here, the Malacon is the main area. This is where the majority of me and the people that I was there with, we went and got food. So it is going to be a little bit more expensive on the Malacon, especially if you're going to go out. But I would say, in terms of prices, it wasn't any much cheaper than America. It really wasn't. You get an entree and a couple of drinks and you're spending $40, $50, to be completely honest. Now, I, myself, will show you the Airbnb as well. And that Airbnb was in the city. It was only about 2.5 to 3 kilometers away from the Malacon. But I was in the neighborhood. I was right near some schools, and you can see really not all the roads were paved. My shoes got extremely dirty. Some of the sidewalks were just dirt. There was a nice shadruri. So shadruri you can compare to a Publix or a Walmart if you're looking for stuff. It was really nice, to be completely honest. Their pastries were fire, but I even only bought a few things and it cost me about $40, $50. So in terms of prices, from my experience, I tried to find places to eat around where I was, more in the neighborhoods. And to be completely honest, it's very laissez-faire. It seemed very laissez-faire, as in people were open when they wanted to be open, people were closed when they wanted to be closed. When I initially got there on Thursday, I tried to find some food at 7 p.m. and I went to 3 taco places and they were all closed. So, very laissez-faire in terms of the neighborhood. They decide when they want to be open, they decide when they don't, and that's kind of how it was. I felt that way about the prices throughout La Paz. The Airbnb was very cheap. I'd like to say that, it was very cheap, but I did have some issues when it came to the internet. It was good for the first couple of days. I needed to work also today, and it was spotty, in and out, very challenging to get on calls. I think when I originally tested it, it was around 30 megabits download and up to 15 megabit upload. And then I checked this morning, it was 2 upload and 2 download. So some issues there, and that was also one of the reasons where I was like, all right, let's just get out of here today so we can actually still get some work done. So that's what we did. Other than that, if you're gonna go to La Paz, I highly recommend that you check out some of the additional beaches that I popped up here. Apparently the beaches are beautiful. I didn't have a car, so I didn't go all the way out there, and I heard that you lose service quite a bit. One thing with me, I have AT&T, and when I had AT&T, I had my internet connection was spotty as well. I'd heard that A lot of the US carriers were just fine in Mexico, but it would say I had 3-4 bars of LTE, but it would be very slow, or randomly it just would not work. So that was something that came up. One thing that was extremely cheap, I would say, is Ubers. So when it comes down to utilizing Ubers, it really only cost me $2 to $3 or 50 to 60 Mexican pesos. Right now, I believe the conversion is around 18. So let's say 20 Mexican pesos equals $1. So just a few dollars for an Uber. Really good. One night I did have issues finding an Uber, and I looked up Didi. Didi would be another ride sharing app, which I actually used to get from the Benito Juarez, Mexico City airport to the place that I'm staying right now, because it was 80, 90 Mexican pesos less than an Uber. So think of other options outside of Uber. There is Didi, you can do that. They have more food options as well if you're like an Uber Eats person. More food options, more food delivery on that app. So yeah, that's kind of my take on La Paz. To be honest, like I said, the Baja's a beautiful place. I did think that La Paz is known for being a pretty large city. I didn't explore too much, like I said, because I didn't have a car. But even where I was, just a few miles outside of the Malacon. Malacon is nice, but a lot of Malacones, like anywhere in Mexico, are going to be their better areas because they're near the water. There's nicer restaurants. That's pretty typical. But even just a few kilometers out, like I said, it wasn't very modernized at all. When I had issues with the internet, I tried to find a co-working space. That co-working space had one office, and that they were going to charge me for, like, I believe it was 600 pesos for 4 hours, which isn't that bad. But I ended up finding a coffee shop and just taking calls outside. So some of the coffee shops further outside or behind the Malacon were actually really nice. I liked that area. We did go to a club or a bar one of the nights we were out there, and with that you could easily tell the difference in drink prices. So down by the Malacon, drinks were 260 to 300 pesos or so. So they were running anywhere from $12 to $14, like a normal cocktail drink with cocktails down by the Malacon. Now if you got cocktails a little bit 3-4 streets deeper, I would say they were $8 or $9. The beers were all very similar or the same, usually 40 to 50 pesos if you just get an Indio or a Pacifico. Some of their main beers are a Tecate. Those were always kind of similar in all places, but that's what I would say. For me, I was a little bit, I know there's been some issues with, not really issues, but the peso's been doing very well against the dollar, and it hasn't necessarily become a very cheap area. I figured La Paz out in the Baja, it might be a little bit cheaper, but I didn't really notice that. I felt like I spent, even more money than I would have spent in America being out there with a few of the food options. So that's my take on La Paz. I don't think I would honestly go back out there. I know a lot of people look to retire out in La Paz, or they look for nomadic spots. I've heard of a spot that was halfway from Cabo when I took the Aguila bus to get into La Paz, called Todos Los Santos, being a good nomad spot. Pretty cool, like good vibes over there. That might be something to look at, but there wasn't really many co-working spots in La Paz. I'm sure you can find a place that's cheaper in terms of rent, but as well, when it comes to like the gyms were a little bit older. There wasn't really anything new. When I joined a La Paz expat group, a lot of them were talking about how none of the gyms also have saunas either. I'm a big sauna guy, not that big of a deal, as well, but if people are really into their health and staying fit and into the fitness side of things, that might be something you look for if you go back to La Paz. So yeah, that's my take. I don't think I'll be back in La Paz. We will see, unless somehow I make my way out there. I'm excited for Mexico City, but I wanted to give you guys my take on what La Paz looked like, some of the areas. I did have some good food. I think Mexico is very known for just having good food. I just didn't think the prices were what I expected. I thought it'd be a little bit cheaper. The Uber's really cheap. There's some good places to go out, but I would recommend going further out, a few blocks outside of the Malacon, to get a little bit better prices and a more authentic experience, for sure. I think the one bar that we went to, we were definitely the only gringos in there. So the eyes are looking around like, how did you find this place? But you know, it was actually my favorite spot that we went out to. So that's my take. Give me your guys' opinion on La Paz if you guys have ever been there. If you feel like you had the same experience as did I, or do you plan on going out there to retire or do nomadic stuff? If I would go back, I would for sure, you know, get a car to be able to explore the really cool beaches, but those beaches are 20-30 minutes out, a little bit further, and I heard they get extremely busy as well. It's a very popular place to visit. So that's it, guys. That's it. I will drop some game on Mexico City. I'm extremely excited about Mexico City. Extremely excited to explore Mexico City. I got some great redemptions in terms of hotels. There are not really any Hyatts. I heard there's a really nice Hilton in La Paz, but in Mexico City there's a few Hyatts that I'm going to be staying at, and so I'm stoked to be able to show you guys that, how I booked them, and some of the upgrades and suites that I'll possibly get with those too. So the greatness of points and miles. Majority of this trip has been paid on in points and miles, and really not that many, and it has saved me a ton of money. So we'll talk about that a little bit further. We'll break it down. That is my breakdown of La Paz. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. As always, peace.